Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of the Footy Fantasy Podcast Show. With me today, I have Bryant and Itata. Obviously, we can see Bryant is wearing a France
Wow.
jersey, so he's a Le Blue fan. And then,
Yeah.
of course, my man Itata is there with a German fan, of a true Kimmich boy, Kimmich all the
Yeah,
way, all the
this
time.
is Kimmich FC.
Yes, right. So before we jump in, guys, please feel free to hit the subscribe button, drop live comments. We're taking your comments as we go, and you can subscribe to us on YouTube. It's Footy Fantasy. That's FOOTIE. If you're following us on Facebook and you're watching this on Facebook, you can also drop comments there. Same with YouTube. We'll pick it up. On Twitter, it's a little bit of a difference there. We have it as Footy 80 Fantasy. That's FOOTIE, A for Apple, D for Delta Fantasy. That's the only difference there. So we're going to start jumping straight in. We're going into the big dog this period, the Euro 2024 tournament. That's why my men here came in without their club jerseys. They're coming up with their adopted national teams. I know Itata is a Nigerian. I don't know where
Yeah,
Brian is
yeah,
from.
full fledged.
Nigeria. I actually was gonna wear my Nigerian jersey, but I was like, you know what? This is a Euro
No,
season.
no, no. I'm
Yeah,
I'm a, I'm a Nigerian too, but I'm not surprised if a Nigerian decides to adopt another country in football.
I have that jersey you're wearing right now. I have that jersey as well.
Oh, the Venezia jersey? Yeah,
Yeah, well, this and the cream one.
yeah, it's
yeah,
my
that's fine.
favorite jersey.
That's fine.
Yeah,
You
it's
know,
a je-
Kappa has been doing things from
They're
time.
on point.
Yeah.
they're slightly underrated. Slightly,
Remember the Juventus Sonny?
Hmm.
yeah,
That Kappa.
yeah. Actually, the Roma. Remember the Roma Kappa from
Yes.
20 years ago?
Yeah.
Still my favorite jersey of all time. I don't know how I lost mine. I had one. And I don't know how I lost it. I still mourn for that jersey because that jersey is a classic.
Yeah, yeah.
Roma is synonymous with Kappa, so I love that Kappa jersey.
Yeah, that's right. Roma. Yeah, it was a club I followed because of Batistuta. He was, like Itata is Kimmich FC. I am Batistuta for life.
That's goal.
Yeah, that's my man there, Angel Gabriel. So
Yeah.
let's dive straight in. Gareth Southgate. I put a real preamble on this. The question is the criticism on Southgate fair? Is it premature or just simply overblown? Why I said I put a preamble on this is so we can anchor the decision, our discussion on something. Gareth Southgate came in as England manager in 2016 after I believe that was the Euros in 2016.
Mm.
Then he took them to the World Cup in 2018, got to the semis, got beat by Croatia, extra time goal, took them to Euro 2000, the COVID Euros in England, almost won, lost on penalties, took them to the last World Cup in Qatar, could have gotten to the final if the reliable Kane did not decide to aim for the birds instead of the
Yeah.
goal. So they were like one penalty away from tying that game, and who knows what could have happened. So looking at his achievements, the the criticism he sometimes gets is for his pragmatic style of play and the idea that this England team is made up of what you call a dream generation. Though as Itata sometimes tell me, we hear dream generation every few years. There's a dream generation of this country. There's a dream generation of Belgium all the time. Dream generation of France. Dream generation of Germany. Dream generation of Brazil. Dream generation of England. One thing that is synonymous with some of these dream generations is that they do not achieve. They do not achieve. So let's dive in straight. That's my preamble. Is this really a dream generation? Let's start that and then go into Southgate. And Is the criticism on Southgate fair, premature, overblown? Brian, I'll let you start. Then Itata.
All right. So in regards to this is the dream or golden generation, I would sort of agree that it is a golden generation because you see historically England have never really had balanced teams, and the Gerrard, Scholes, Lampard era, their teams were never really balanced. But this generation, there's more balance, and you also see that the level of technicality within the players, like a player like Foden, Bellingham, Sancho, even though he's not in the team right now, Rashford, like the level of technicality does not usually synonymous with England is right there. So I think this can count as a golden generation. I do feel like there's still a little bit of like decline in like the type of players they produce, even though like some departments have gone up. Well, England usually have like a lot of good strikers. They had Kane. I mean, they had Rooney, Owen, all of that. But now, if you think about it, like if Kane is retiring now, do you think England have anybody that can replace him? I personally don't feel so. So
No,
that
not at the
that
moment.
also plays a part into it. On In regards to like criticism Southgate has faced or is currently facing, I think it's a mixture of both like fair and overblown, right? I think it's fair because like this he set a good example per se. Like he took them, like you mentioned, he took them to the semifinals. He took them to the finals of the Euros tournament. So the threshold is high, the expectations is high. So it's fair for you to have criticism if you see that they're not meeting expectations early on. I do think it's overblown because first off, they're top of the group. They're obviously gonna qualify, and he's generally played pragmatic football, and like I think people fail to understand that tournament football is different from league football. So the way you have to set up and play in tournament football and the things that you have to try are different. And he has a very good understanding of that, which is why you see that he's taking England far into certain tournaments. So we can't really criticize his pragmatic style if it's worked for him. I will say though that uh, I understand that a lot of people are not really messing with the tinkering, like Trent in midfield and Foden over here, and
Foden
just
at left wing instead of right
at the left
wing.
wing, or right wing. A lot of people are not really messing with it, but you have to understand, like you said, they're lacking the player. I don't understand the outrage people had when he said they're lacking the player in the mode of Calvin Phillips, right? Because technically he wasn't talking about Calvin Phillips, he's talking about the profile that he represents, someone to properly complement
Rice.
Rice. And so you could tell that he's working on it, which is why he's playing Trent in that position. And he's going to think the group stages are the time to tinker and try what you want to do, especially if you already have points and you feel like you're going to go forward. So he's trying all of that, and then he's going to move forward. I'm sure by the time he gets to the knockout stages, he will know what he wants to do properly and implement those things properly. But yeah, so that's my take for now.
Okay, that's a good one. That's actually it's very hard to argue with a lot of the things you said. Itata, what do you want to add to that?
Well, to begin with, talking about golden generation or gifted generation or the dream generation, I don't even think this team is as talented as when you had Gerrard, Lampard, Scholes, Wayne Rooney, Rio Ferdinand. That was that was the golden generation. So in terms of this is a golden team, it might be slightly overrated, which makes the criticism for Southgate in some aspect, in that specific aspect, overblown. Because I think it is an expectation tied on a team with a false label, you know, expecting a certain level of output based on a false label. If this were the team that had Rooney, Heskey, and the rest, David Beckham, then I would say
Ashley
it's Fred.
Cole.
Ashley Cole. You know, that team was the golden generation. That team would crush this team, in my opinion. So in terms of that, I think it's overblown. Now, the true rating of this team, the criticism is fair. Southgate has been there since what, 2017? When did he become
2016.
recruit?
Immediately
2016.
after that Euros.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So he's been in charge 2016. I think part of the conversation is between 2016 and now. Why at times do England still play like a bunch of strangers? You know, there is no cohesion. There is enough time to establish a system and have a way of playing football. I think that's where the criticism is fair. But with regards to this tournament, because it hits every fair, premature, and overblown, it hits all the points. Being premature is specific to this tournament, right? It is premature. Being that England are top of the group, it's not that they've been knocked out. And we all know in tournaments, you know, there is a possibility of getting stronger. Case in point, Ivory Coast at the African Cup of Nations. That cup final, they would have beaten any African team. Just for that cup final. You know, that's why I don't really feel bad. Case in point, to Nigerian Super Eagles at the AFCON grew strong until the final, and then they decided to be weakened. So in tournament football, there is a possibility that this England team can get better and play improved football. So with regards to that, I think, you know, the criticism is premature. So I just think it touches all of those points with rest. It touches being fair, premature, and overblown in those different regards, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. I agree with both of you. There's not really much I can add except to say that there's a unfair or put it, sorry, unrealistic expectation that England fans have always had, and that expectation has always been it's coming home. They've been longing for so long. They've been testing for so long that any sign of water, they'll lap it up,
Hmm.
and so there's no realism in it. However, I have to add a caveat to something that you both said. This style of play thing, I don't agree with the style of play for one reason. If you look at France and compare France to England, Deschamps has been in France for a very long time. He's won tournaments. But if you look at his team and compare them to the England team, France have far more talent, far more balance. They could choose 3, 4 players in a lot of positions that England are lacking. Like, for example, England, which is probably a very balanced team too, they don't have a left back with really good left back with Luke Shaw being injured now. Maguire out of the team. There's no direct replacement. There's no other big guy who's going to dominate the air in there. You know, there's no replacement like Brian said for Calvin Phillips. But with France, they've got Chouameni, they've got Cavaminga, for example, in that position. And why I mentioned that is look at the style of play of Deschamps. That is pragmatism 101. Dull football, king of dull football. They don't go to play the best soccer, they just go to win. You know, he does what is needed. He wins because he wins a lot of games. But if you look at that World Cup win, it was won by counter-attacking football. The gloss on it was they had so much talent that they made it look so special. That World Cup final win was just counter-attack, you know, and special counter goals. They packed the balls. They just waited. Croatia will come, they just hit them. Croatia will come, they'll hit them. And once Croatia made that, once Croatia considered, they had to come out. And then France just kept going to Mbappe. I have a saying that if it was flipped, the last World Cup final we had, if it was flipped, that Argentina were the ones chasing 3-1 from 3-1 down, they would have never won that game. Why?
I
Because
agree.
France would have never come out. France would have sealed that game 3-1 up. So I think pragmatism. And look at Argentina that won the World Cup. Very pragmatic team. When they were playing their best football, they didn't get anything. The team that was dominated by the Magueros, the Riquelme, Riquelme then, Messi starting, that period when they were all attack, all special, they didn't win anything. When they now brought in in comparison to those guys I just mentioned, limited players. This guy in Liverpool now, the guy that just moved to Liverpool from Brighton, McAllister. With all
McAllister.
due respect, he's not a special midfielder per se. He's limited. He's not special like you won't compare him
Right.
to a Pello or Riquelme.
McAllister. Yeah, that's
You know,
true.
yeah, you won't even compare him to the guy that left Liverpool and went to Mascherano. You won't compare him to those guys. But these were limited guys that just knew how to grind results and work for Messi. So I think if what Southgate has been missing is a way to work out to get Kane, Foden, Saka into the best position to win games. That's what he needs to do. If he can get the rest of the team functioning for them, they should be able to win games.
But the difference between England and those teams that you mentioned, right, that play pragmatic football, like France and what's it called? France and
Argentina,
Argentina.
Argentina,
They have players that could turn on the individual brilliance and carry you through. So even if you're pragmatic, you have a player that can say, I'm sorry for my
Yeah.
language, fuck it,
mhm,
carrying you through. I'll put the
mhm.
team on my back.
Yeah,
You know,
Messi, Mbappe.
France has Messi, France has Mbappe, Argentina has
As Messi,
Messi.
Messi.
And also they have how do I put they had the midfielders per se. They had the
yeah,
players that could connect with those players. For example, Argentina wasn't really like Enzo Fernandez was instrumental to their World Cup
yes,
win, right? Just like France, you can see
Rodrigo de Paul. Rodrigo de Paul. I was
Rodrigo de
thinking,
Paul.
yeah,
Obviously,
yeah,
he was the guard. He was
yeah,
the defensive linchpin,
yeah,
right? Just like Conte is for
yeah,
France. But with France, if you look at their creativity and also their like attacking output, they haven't really scored much goals.
yeah,
Their creativity and attacking output this Euros, you will see that it's dropped because Pogba is not in the team. Pogba was literally the MVP of their World Cup win and their Euros performance. Even that game that they lost to Switzerland in a bizarre fashion, Pogba was the
yeah.
MVP
Because
of
they
the
can,
game
yeah,
until
can
the
open up
mistake.
a game for Mbappe easily.
Exactly. And England hasn't had that player like somebody like if Rooney was on this team, we wouldn't even be talking about this. If you had Rooney post goals or Rooney on this team, Rooney is putting the team on his back. You don't have the player with the mentality and ability to say, "Yo, I'm
Yes,
taking you.
there's
I'm
also
taking you
nobody
through
like
the middle."
Gerrard in midfield, for example, who can also do that. Because with all due respect to Bellingham, he gets a lot of goals, but he's no Steven Gerrard.
Yeah,
He's not.
Bellingham is not an eight. Bellingham is
Yeah,
not an eight. I think he's
I think
misprofiled
he's
a
a
lot.
second striker in my you know, to me he's just a guy who crashes the box very well. I mean that's
yeah,
not a disrespect. That's not disrespecting him. That's just being realistic. He's a guy who can crash the box very
Exactly.
well.
It's like putting Lampard in conversation with Scholes and Gerrard. That doesn't
yeah,
work because Lampard is not, a midfielder in that ilk. He's
Yeah,
more of a that's
yeah,
the same with Bellingham, right? He's not an eight. He gets misprofiled a lot because
yeah,
he can play the eight to a serviceable position, just like he can play the six to a serviceable position, but
yeah,
that's not really where he thrives at. He's more of a 10 or a 9.5, like you would put it. And I think with England, they have the profiles now. It's just the English media, like Southgate has a lot to deal with England. Like you said, the expectations, is coming home and everything. He has a lot to deal with, you know. And because maybe people view these players that are successful, like Kane has scored over 400 goals, he's currently the highest leading goal scorer in Europe for last season, by at least 10 goals. So they have players that people expect, okay, since we have these players, we naturally have to deliver. So the expectations and the media is on them. So you also have to protect your players and also have to incorporate them slowly because that's why I say they have the profile now. Like, for example, a perfect, from my understanding and belief, I think a perfect complement to Declan Rice would be Adam Wharton. Wharton can play those passes. He's very good on the ball. He can play those passes. But this is his first time with the national team. He's a young player.
the
You
kid.
know,
Yeah,
he's a kid. So you have to worry about that bit because the media in England is very voracious. Like you can see with the first game, Maino played and Iceland scored, and like Maino was the entire headline, and he only
Yeah,
played like what 14 minutes, and they made it about him, you know. So you have to protect young players and slowly embed them in.
I mean,
If
yeah,
you can play, and then I think Saka is slowly developing into that kind of player for England that can put the team on his back. You know, like he's always delivered phenomenal performances for England, kind of like Raheem Sterling and Rashford. So in the absence of those two players, you can see like Saka's gonna be able to put the team on his back and
yeah.
move forward.
There's something you said it about tournament football is not league football, and the problem with tournament football is and not just tournament football, international team management is this, right? You don't have 30, 40, 50 games. You don't have training every week to let these guys gel together, find out what they're good at, what they're bad at. You have a short while and you have to do it quick. And sometimes when games are coming that you say, okay, look, we're going to play friendlies and try this guy, try that guy. This guy you want to try might be injured at that very time. So you have to play someone else. It might not be the guy you want. Like some guys, I've heard a lot of comments, and I feel some of these comments are a bit unrealistic. Like people say, "Oh, if this was Spain, they would have been playing Palma and Main already. They would be in the team." But Palma and Main only got into this team in March. They really got in just about 3, 4 months ago. Lami Yamal was very different because he was lucky to get into the team 2 years before this time. And so he had been playing with them, and then they know how good he is. If he was getting in this match, he's not benching someone else unless they have a big deficiency there and they have to play him. Kids, like you said, Adam Watson, Palmer, Maino, these three guys are guys that could make a change, but you don't want to throw them into the wolves. Um, you have to be a little bit pragmatic and try and win games. However, that being said, this I believe is his last chance saloon. If he doesn't do well, he would, but the other part of doing well is what he's doing well. Because as for me, you can't be sure a manager can win an international tournament. There's a little bit of luck involved. There's a little bit of luck involved. Argentina were lucky to win that World Cup. It was a penalty shootout. That's the truth.
I mm, can I be controversial? I don't think Argentina's win had anything to do with luck. I think
No.
Argentina's win had a lot to do with corruption, but that's just me. Corruption all the way. We're not here to talk about Messi and his acolytes.
Okay, but you get what I'm saying. The same thing goes with France. One bad, like if Kane had scored that penalty, France might have not won that World Cup. With all the, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and to be honest, if Kolo Muani had passed to Mbappe, France would have won the last World Cup. So
Or if he chipped it, or even if he just chipped it off a bit.
So it is like, for example, the Euros where France lost in the finals to Portugal.
Mm-hmm.
Portugal had a little bit of luck to win that game. You understand? So it does play, and that's why I said a lot of people don't realize that international football is completely different. And I think maybe with the way football has progressed and everybody's so immersed in tactics, all these disciples of Peps, so they always come and say, oh, the manager doesn't play this tactics or he doesn't do this, or why doesn't the manager put this particular player in a position? Like, I was so astounded when I saw the excuses that was being made for Foden after the first game. But, it was crazy.
Let me say something quickly. This is a direct question to Itata that answers what you just said. Itata, when was the last time you saw a team play open, brilliant football and win a big international tournament? What I mean big is World Cup or Euros or even and the Copa. When was the last time you saw a team that was playing like 1994 Brazil win the World Cup, playing, open?
Oh, just the World Cup.
No, or win a big
tournaments playing very expensive.
France Euro 2000, Brazil Copa America 1997, 99, Nigeria African Cup of Nations 1994. Those are just off the top. Cameroon.
You're going to 20-something years ago. Over 25 years ago.
No, I'm saying it's possible. It's doable.
I
Yeah,
give
but
you one that I think was probably, from my perspective, I think they played expensive football, but the World Cup Germany won on Brazilian soil. I don't know if you remember that,
Yeah.
where they beat
Mhm.
Brazil seven
yeah,
zero to make, yeah, and
I
they
think that was
beat
10 years ago, right?
yeah, I believe so.
Yeah,
So that one, I
2014.
think they had a very like expensive team. I don't. Mm, I'm thinking if Spain's win in South Africa counts as well, but I'm
No,
not
So
sure.
they
no.
were pragmatic. They were very
Yeah,
They
pragmatic.
were very pragmatic.
I remember.
One of
Because
the
I
most
remember the
pragmatic
final
things.
against the Dutch. The Dutch were
Yeah,
playing free flowing football. You
yeah.
know. Yeah.
The Dutch have always been the guys that have always playing free flowing football and lose. In my experience, they'll play
Yeah,
the football at
yeah,
the
I
tournament
know.
and get knocked out. Yeah. So we have to move on. Let's take comments quickly because we can be on this topic all day. Let's take there's two comments here. Then we'll move on to the next topic. Ayo goes. Good afternoon to the esteemed panel of gentlemen. Good afternoon, Ayo. And then we have he goes. My Southgate criticism is that if you wanted to be brave, then go all out, but get your structure right. TAA is not a midfielder. He can invert, but he can invert, but not start there. Ask Foden to stay wide and provide balance. It's very hard to ask Foden to stay wide to provide balance because Foden is not fast.
Right.
He won't really play well out wide. He has to drift inside because of his lack of pace, and that's
I
the other
know.
the other problem with Shaw not being there. There's no overlapping person to take advantage of Foden drifting because Trippier has to drift inside. He's right-footed.
Look, Zaza,
Hmm.
this England conundrum can be solved easily. And if you remember, we were chatting in the group. I even proposed something very unpopular, but that would create the best balance. In my opinion, I don't think Foden and Bellingham should be on the field at the same time.
Agreed.
In my opinion, but it's almost like England are trying to make sure they're trying to play maybe 13 players at a time. Someone has
Remember,
to sit on the bench. England had Michael Carrick, who would provide the best. Carrick is like
balance
Busquets, it's like a funnel, takes everything in and spreads it out accordingly. They kept Carrick on the bench for the most part of Carrick's career.
because
They
they were trying
played,
to play
yeah,
Lampard, Gerrard, and
and
Scholes at the same
Scholes.
time.
Right. And even Scholes, who is, in my opinion, a better creatively than Lampard and Gerrard, was pushed to the left. I think I think Foden is better as a creator than Bellingham, but I don't think two of them have to play. I proposed my suggestion was play the guy from Newcastle on the left. What is his name? I've forgotten his
Gordon,
name.
I agree
Play
with
Gordon
you.
on the left.
Gordon,
I even told Oluyemi Ajayi, we had that discussion. I said, I would, if I have to play Trent, I would play Trent on the right, but he can't play over Saka. So that automatically creates your forward line. Gordon, Kane, Trent Alexander-Arnold, or Gordon, Kane, Saka. You have that solved, and you decide on who to play, Foden or Bellingham behind Kane.
But think about
That's it.
you have to, like I said, the media plays a part into the decisions that he makes because you have a player like Foden, who's the player of the season in the Premier League with how many goals and assists, right?
Yeah.
And then you have a player like Bellingham,
Who just won the
who
Champions
is
League?
literally up for the Ballon d'Or and he should be in the podium for the Ballon d'Or. So personally, who are you going to drop? Now, if you decide, okay, I move Bellingham to the 8 so that I could play Foden in the 10, so Bellingham partners rise in the 8, you're neutralizing what exactly it is he's done best, especially since it's been there for everybody to see in Madrid how Ancelotti used him.
Yeah.
So you can't move Bellingham to the 8 just so you can shoehorn in,
Foden.
Gordon, who's improving in the England setup on the right, and then put Foden in the 10. So my question to you is, who would you drop?
Might be personally.
Mm-hmm.
I would play Rice and Wharton. Is it Wharton? That's his name.
Or
Yeah,
yeah,
I'll
Morton,
play
yes.
Rice and Wharton or Rice and Mino behind Foden. I
okay.
would play Gordon on the left. I would play Saka on the right, Kane. Or I drop Foden and play Bellingham.
So now I'm asking between Bellingham and Foden, who are you leaning towards? Because he has to
Oh,
drop.
I would play Foden. Foden all day. Creativity. He would, and he pops up with the goals. I know Bellingham scores, but with how Foden is a very, very intelligent footballer.
He
I
creates
I
disagree.
would play
opportunity more.
Foden behind Kane.
I disagree with you.
There's a
So
problem that Foden doesn't actually play his best football in the middle. He plays
I,
his best football
so I
drifting out
disagree with
wide.
you. You're right about
Hmm.
Foden not necessarily playing his best football as a 10. Traditionally, he is a 10.
Hmm.
But you know what's funny? A lot of people say Foden can't play on the left. Foden can't play on the left. If you look at the last at least 10 games for Manchester City, Foden was playing on the left, right? Because KDB, best midfielder in the world, technically like drifts into the right, and they have
Hmm.
other wingers. But Foden, even in the FA Cup final, Foden has played on the right hand side, right? He's and performed there for Manchester City.
Yeah, but
I
Manchester City is a different ecosystem from Three Lions.
I
Like
know,
I
I
am
know.
trying to get Three Lions to play to their best potential. It's not about Man City. It is this is Three Lions tournament football. Where can you get the best out of the players that you have? This
And
is England's problem right now. And I'm saying it's historical. We've all seen Carrick was on the bench,
yeah,
Scholes was pushed to the left. All of these things have been happening with England. It's not new. It's actually not new.
no, it's not. It's not.
They can make the changes to turn their tournament, but they won't do it.
Because you
Okay.
would have to sacrifice players that are very popular and that have performed. Like Foden is the Premier League player of the season.
I get
You
it.
and
I
he
get it.
plays for
That's
the
what I'm
best
saying.
team in the league.
So in essence, they have taken out the pistol from their pocket and pointed it at their own foot. So it's
Yes.
not even our problem. We are providing solutions that they are not going to take. That's
But
England. They've always
you
been
know,
like that.
I also think the problem, some of these problems were created by other factors. What I mean by other factors is national team managers tend to rely on some particular players over the years, players that they've trusted to play in certain positions.
Mhm.
What has happened to um, Southgate this tournament, especially getting close to the tournament? It's not something that happened that he had 12 months to prepare for. Was Maguire got injured?
Sure.
Sure.
Calvin Phillips, sure. He lost three people that actually provide some of the best balance. Because if Calvin Phillips
Sterling.
was there, he would be in here, and then he would have less decisions to make about going up front. Trippier would not be on the left. Trippier would either be on the bench or starting on the right. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Because that lack of balance on the left to affects Foden. This Foden question we're talking about. If Shaw is overlapping Foden creates an extra body near the box, which means guess one of the problem they're having. Kane dropping into midfield to try and link up play would be less because there's somebody already there doing it for him. So
So
this,
Yeah, but that is what I'm saying. With those issues in place, play Gordon on the left. He's a left winger and tracks back.
I agree
but
with you.
but
Like
Gordon is just getting into the team as well. So
But
he's not.
he's actually played well for England.
exactly. He plays for
He's
Newcastle.
played well for England.
The forward line besides Saka, it lacks pace, and they don't have runners in behind. You're playing three, not like three players that like ball to foot.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Usually before this tournament started, I mentioned that Foden, Kane, and Bellingham cannot start together, and Kane
it is
has
obvious.
always Kane has always traditionally dropped to the
Into
midfield.
the number 10
that's his,
position.
yeah, yeah.
He's always dropped to the midfield to create. He looks up, he sees Raheem Sterling. He looks up, he sees Rashford. Players with pace and understanding that know they have to run, right? Then what's it called? Um, Bellingham. Bellingham is a player that likes to crash the box, right? He operates within the space, the half
Yeah.
space. He crashed the box, but there's that. And then Foden primarily likes to drift in and be in the middle. If you watch, this is why I disagree with you that Foden is an intelligent player. He's a supremely skilled player, but I feel like his football IQ is lacking. If you look at Jude, I think Jude is has a better football IQ than Foden. If you look at the first two games they've played, you can see that Jude is dropped, and which is why you can't drop Jude necessarily for Foden, because he will do the work that Foden won't do. You see, he's dropping into the midfield to cover as an eight for TAA. You see, like he's going into positions that the team needs. You see that he knows how to time his run and things like that. If you look at the first game, there's a cross Saka did from the right, and England should have scored right there. Kane was right there in the middle, but Foden was also in the middle. So because
Yeah,
Foden
they
ran,
made the same run
Foden ghosted in into Kane's position, Kane wasn't able
instead
to
of going
shoot.
into the back post.
Exactly. He left the ball right there for Foden. But Foden missed it because Kane was also there. So Foden should have been at the back post because you're the one playing in that position.
Yeah,
If that
Jude.
was Sterling or
If
Raheem
that was
forward,
Jude, if
or
that was Jude, Jude would have gone to the back post.
if that was Sterling or Rashford, they would be right there at the back post because they know what is needed of them. So why are you clogging up the space the striker is supposed to take?
I think because Foden has not played so many games for England, a lot of people that are in this team are not the people that have always been starting. A lot of people in this team are not the people that have always been starting. If you start looking at
That
it,
is
a lot.
Disaster.
From,
That's why you default to players playing in their natural position.
okay, well,
If you, especially my case, like you have a legitimate case for Bellingham. I'm saying either Bellingham or Foden. Personally, I have a liking for Foden. So it has nothing to really do with technicality. Both of them can provide centrally. I'm saying don't play two of them at the same time when you have Gordon that can hog that left and stretch that left. Right? They
okay,
have the solution, but they're ignoring it. Southgate has the
okay.
solution to at least just put a little tape on it and move to the next step.
I wouldn't say he's ignoring it. I
Okay.
feel like he's building up to it because once again, you can't start the tournament benching a player like Foden or Jude. Media
Let's
would
do
eat
this.
it.
Let's do this. We have to pause. We've been on this for good
Okay.
35 minutes. We're not going to stop. We're going to pause this conversation and we're going to revisit it in the next 2 weeks. We're
Okay.
going to come back to it because this tournament will soon be over and then we'll know, we'll actually be in a better position to know who was right and who
Yeah.
was wrong. And if Southgate, if he doesn't do well in this tournament, we'll know if the criticism was fair, premature, or well deserved. We'll
Yeah.
know, but because we will not answer this question today, not from the looks of it. So let's agree to disagree on it. We're going to have to move on because we have about
Yeah.
15 minutes left. Um, the next question is: which striker, midfielder, or attacker has impressed you the most? You can pick
Oh,
one of each, or you
I
can
I
pick one
I,
player.
I
So,
wrote
Itata, go
mine.
ahead.
I wrote mine down.
Hmm.
Gianluigi Donnarumma, goalkeeper. His performance against Spain, unbelievable. For defense, William Saliba. He has been. I think that he is probably the most underrated central defender in Europe the last season, and he's been very consistent. People actually compare Van Dijk to Rio Ferdinand. I think Saliba might be the accurate comparison. And then Pedri for Spain, unbelievable footballer. Man. He's exceptional. Up front, I picked Mitrovic. I'm not sure he hasn't scored yet, but his influence up front, I didn't expect he's going to come from the Saudi league and did what he did, but he's been holding his own in this tournament. And special mention, I would say, N'Golo Kante. Not that I had my doubts. I actually knew he would come in and do what he did, so I'm really impressed. So those are my picks from goalkeeper, midfielder to forward line.
Okay, that's
Okay.
that's a good one. Brian?
For me, for goalkeeper, like you mentioned, Gigi's performance was top against Spain. But for me, I'll go with the Georgian goalkeeper that plays for Valencia. I don't want to butcher his name, but you know what I'm talking about. Yeah,
Mama
he's
Mama Mama
Mehmet
Dashvili?
Deli. Yeah, Mehmet Deli. So his performance has been top to me, right? Like his performance has been amazing. So for him, I have him as my goalkeeper so far. And for defense, I got old man Pepe for Portugal. The
Oh,
40
that's a good
think
shout.
his
That's a good
performance
shout.
has
Has
been
been very good. Yes.
phenomenal. I think his performance has been phenomenal. The way he leads the back line, the way he commands them, the way he like he shows up.
Yeah.
I think the last game against Turkey, like he had almost, I think he almost had a standing ovation. Like he was a
He
very
did have a standing ovation.
okay there. So 40-year-old Pepe, that's my pick for defense.
Defense.
For midfield, I have quite a few, right? So
Hmm.
I just want to say Tony Cruz. That
Oh yeah,
man is
unbelievable.
phenomenal.
Yeah.
You know,
Cruise
Tony Cruz.
control. Cruise control. We'll
I
see
to
him
argue
today.
with that. Yeah.
Tony Cruz.
Looking forward to that game.
Mm.
Yeah. And for striker, anyone?
So for me, for midfield, I have quite a few. So
Hmm.
I have Pepe. I mean, sorry, I have Kante, N'Golo Kante, and Tony Cruz. And for forward, even though he's technically a midfielder, I will count him as a forward for Germany because of the way they play, and also he's the leading
Musiala.
goal scorer. Musiala to me has been
Musiala.
Musiala has been the best player to me. So Musiala is number one for me forward wise, followed by Nico Williams and Lamine Yamal, the twin
Yeah.
wings for Spain. So those for me are like,
Yeah, Yamal.
Musiala,
Ooh.
Williams. I don't think in particular any striker has like
Yeah, no one has really jumped out.
Yeah.
anybody has jumped out for me, because everybody has had games, at least one game where they're like good.
Average.
Mm.
Then one game where they're average.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
I like the Georgian striker McCarthy, but like the game against Church, he didn't really get a lot of um
Service.
service because cover scarily I wanted to play like selfish ass player. But yeah.
Yeah. All right. I also don't have a striker per se to pick. I'm gonna go young with midfielders. I think Inaki Williams' brother. I don't know his name, but the Williams guy. I
The
just call him
younger
Inaki
Williams. Yeah.
Williams.
Williams.
Yeah, the younger Williams. Like they need to go and check that family and find out what are their mother drunk. Because not only is she giving birth to sportsmen, she's giving birth to sportsmen that look like oxes and wolves. They're strong, they're fast, they can fight. Like man, something is in their DNA. I was very much impressed with Musiala, though that's not new, but the boy seems to
Yeah.
be growing.
Yeah.
Someone was arguing in another group that Bellingham is taking a lot of accolades, but on the G, Musiala is growing into the better player. And I kind of tend to agree with that because he's actually someone in the next 5 years that might be at the level of Mbappe, like he's the level of replacing them Mbappe, Messi, them at that level. That's what I'm looking at Musiala as.
If his
Uh,
final product sticks, he will be a
yeah,
serious shout for like
yeah.
Ballon d'Or.
It's
Yeah.
looking like that. It's like he's a kid that is growing, growing, growing. It's unbelievable that boy is not playing for Nigeria, but it's just okay. I think it was better
Oh
for
my
him.
god.
It was better for him. It was better for
Yeah. It's
him.
unbelievable that Eze
Yeah.
is not playing for Nigeria when he was at the camp with Iwobi and Aino.
I mean,
I mean,
just
please let's not
please
go there. I don't
let's
want to
don't
be
go
sad.
there. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
yeah, yes. Let's
I
keep
don't
it
want to be
positive.
sad today, man.
Yes, let's keep it positive. Yeah, you guys already mentioned the best defenders. I was gonna think, Pepe, Saliba was good. I want to give a shout out to Cucurella though.
Yeah.
Cucurella has
He
really been
surprised me. I'm
solid.
not even gonna
Yeah,
lie.
it's
He surprised me.
and that I'll have to say has been impressive because we're saying who has been most impressed you. He has made an impression on me because
Yeah,
this guy was a guy I had given up on.
I
I was
agree.
looking at this guy like this guy, sometimes when your transfer goes bad, some players never come out of it. This
Yeah,
guy he's grown from the season, he ended the season strongly with Chelsea, and then it's looked like he's coming back to the player we thought he was a few years ago.
Yeah.
So you mentioned the best goalkeepers. I don't need to add to that. I'll just take comments on this, and then we'll move on to the next question because there's comments from Ayo on this. Ayo actually picked out a striker. He says full
Yeah.
pro. Yeah, it's fair enough.
I
Yeah.
just remember the striker as well because of the statement you said, because
Mhm.
he's impressed you. Cucurella has impressed you. I
Yeah,
totally forgot, but I'm a big fan of the Dutch national team, and Cody Gakpo has impressed me. I was never, I'm not big on Liverpool players, but Cody Gakpo has impressed me for the Dutch national team. So I really
fair
like.
enough.
He
Fair enough.
actually has an underrated skill. He doesn't lose the ball. If
Yeah,
you pay attention to Gakpo, he protects the ball and makes good use of it. Might not be flamboyant, is not the greatest finisher, but if you give him the ball, it sticks.
that's right. That's right. And he has a wicked shot as well.
Oh,
Uh,
Fabian Ruiz. Woo! Yeah,
oh yeah, yeah. Ayo picked Gundogan, Musiala, Fabian Ruiz. Fabian Ruiz has actually, I think, been
yeah.
Spain's best player. He has been Spain's best
Hmm,
player about the two games.
It
I
Yeah,
don't.
he's the
might
one.
be
He
him
might
and
be because
Yamin Lamal have been.
Lamar. Yeah,
And
yeah,
of
but he
course,
has to.
Rodri. But Rodri is it's almost a case of his standard is so high that if it drops by 0.5%, we don't even pay attention to it.
Yeah, he's one of those players that can get lost. Like because if you're not really watching the game, you will know he's doing that
He's
well.
doing, yeah.
Yeah, he's really a very impressive player. That's a high class footballer there. I have picked for defender. I picked Dragusin, Guehi, and
Guehi, yeah,
Jonathan Tah.
Guehi is a good shot.
I'm
Yeah,
gonna agree with Gehi and Dragusin. Like Gehi's been phenomenal
Yeah,
yeah.
actually.
he is, he
Yeah,
is.
I'm
Dragusin too
still
has
giving
been
him
good.
props. Dragusin has been good as well.
I'm
Dragusin.
not sure about Jonathan Tah though. I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
he hasn't really impressed me like
I'm
that.
not
Yeah,
sure, but it's his choice.
yeah.
So we're gonna move
Yeah,
on
so,
quickly to which team is looking like a dark horse. This is our
Austria,
last.
Austria, Austria,
yeah,
Austria.
you did read my mind.
4-2-2-2-2-2-2-2-2-2-2.
You're reading my mind.
Austria, because man, sometimes in football it goes beyond talent. What those guys have is that extra desire to get to the ball.
You're pressing.
Every single player has an extra desire to win the ball back. And I think that would take them, it might push them to the quarterfinals just because it's just the effort to get to the ball before anyone. They're
So
fighting for each other real good.
Yeah, very good
Yeah.
teamwork ethic there.
Yeah.
Yeah, Brian, I think you were gonna say the same thing.
yeah, I agree with you. So before this tournament started, I had Austria as my dark horse because I um like I've watched a lot of their games. Like Ranich is a
Mm,
good coach, and there's a reason why he's called the father of German football. Like the
mm,
theories and the
mm.
pressing, because their pressing and their counter press is ridiculous. To
Yes.
me, he's one of the three best coaches in the tournament, right? So I've got Spalletti and I've got Nagelsmann and Ranich because their teams you can see the identity and you can see like the way they play. So the pressing Austria have is ridiculous, and I've had them as the dark horses. I actually before the tournament started, I told my friends that because we did a chart of how we expect the groups to, you
Go.
know, go. And I think I told my friend that I believe that Austria would knock England out if they meet England. Because he thinks England is going to win it all. I told him if they meet England, they would knock England out. But Australia is my dark pick, my dark horse pick. I had them before the tournament, and after the tournament started, I added like two more teams. Actually, I had Austria and Denmark as my dark horse pick before the tournament started. Denmark, I'm not so confident more on
Mhm.
after the first couple of games, and Turkey, I had Turkey as a dark horse as well. But like I said, not so much
I
after.
can see that.
Yeah,
Yeah. Uh, I would say I'm still kind of a little bit confident in Denmark. because I think I agree. Austria look like the best small team in this tournament. They look the best organized, the best
Mm.
in, sometimes it's not about the best players, as
Yeah,
Cruyff said, but the best team. And they look like a team that is the sum of the players is greater than the sum of the individual
yeah.
parts. Together,
Greece
they look
2004. Greece
exactly like a Greece
2004.
2004, where they can do something, they can hurt
Yeah,
someone.
yeah.
And this tournament is looking like a tournament where it's the luck of the draw. I haven't actually
The
studied the
bracket.
draw, the brackets after the. Actually, I think I'll look at it more after this. But where each team goes and who they play next determines what happens. Um, if Denmark get into the weaker side of the draw, where and then one other big team knocks each other out, Denmark gets a favorable team that complements the way they play. Because
They
Denmark too
play.
is a
That's true.
team that you can see the way they pressed England. They made it. People were saying England didn't play well. No, Denmark made them not play well.
Yeah.
People were not trying to give Denmark the credit because
Credit. Yeah.
they pressed England so badly. Like what's it called? Declan Rice was looking like jollof rice. The guy was that was
Basmati rice.
yeah,
Definitely.
like real basmati rice, like something that was bought from one mama put on the corner, not 100 million pounds. And Declan Rice is a good player, don't get me wrong, but he
Yeah.
looked so poor that day. And then, of course, everybody was blaming Trent. But then I saw a video of the compilation. I didn't even notice how bad it was until I saw that video. Oh my God, this guy was terrible. Declan Rice
He
was
was giving the ball
poor.
away, man.
He was in the wrong place at the wrong. He always at the
I
wrong
will tell
place.
you, it's not his fault. It's because of who his partner in midfield is. That's all I
No,
can.
yeah, I'm not saying it's his fault. I'm not necessarily saying it's his fault, but I'm saying that it was the way Denmark played because he had
Yeah.
to cover
Credit to
so much
Denmark.
ground. Yeah, he had to cover. And then what's his name? The guy that has the same name, the guy that scored, the guy that has a name like Hoylund. Is it Hamulond or something?
Oh,
The guy that
human. Human. He plays for Sporting. Yeah.
yeah,
Martin Human.
dude, that guy. I won't be surprised that guy goes to a big team after this tournament,
He's
and he
actually
becomes.
been linked to United before the tournament started. But yeah, he's been linked to United before the tournament started. I like him because I like players that are very good with the fundamentals, right?
Yeah,
Like
he's
he's a very superior players when it comes to fundamental.
Mm.
So
yeah,
I like that about him.
yeah.
But personally, as a United fan, I just feel like we need physicality in our midfield, and I don't know if he has the required physicality.
Yeah.
Well, if other parts of the team are physical, he could work. It could work. United's problem is not just the players. They need to give that man back his hair. His bald head is not helping him at all. I'll take the final comment and we'll wrap
Yeah.
it up. Ayo says Austria is looking like my dark horse. Uncle Raf knows what he's doing after all. Well, he knows what he's doing, except when it comes to managing in England
Hmm.
or managing United. But then a lot of people that come to United look clueless. That team at the moment is looking cost.
I think
That's just
United players is a different story for another day.
yeah.
What
Yeah.
Ralph proposed could work, but our players are not ready for that.
No,
Okay,
they're
so
not.
like
They're
you
not.
can see with United, you can see that they're trending in different ways as opposed to when they
Hmm.
were under Raf. Because
Yeah.
previously, I will tell you, I think the players were lacking in like fitness, physicality, and also
Yeah, you need that to play
and
for.
IQ. So
See,
in order
like
to get
Ralph
that,
can coach Liverpool, who will pound you all
yeah,
90 minutes. United don't
Yeah.
play like that.
Even
yeah,
even
so,
Brighton would be a
Yeah,
better fit for him.
yeah.
No,
yeah,
there
because
are a lot of teams.
players are not, they don't have what it takes to implement the
Mm.
There are
press,
a
the
lot of
Not at
teams
all.
in the
press,
Premier
and
League, right? That, with all due respect to Man United, the only reason Man United would beat them if they played the best of 3 games. That would be maybe because they have some superior players or players that can turn on and score goals out of nothing. But
Mm.
if he was, I wouldn't be sure that United would win more than one game. I tell you, maybe West Ham. I tell you, even Wolves. I'm not forget the big teams. A lot of teams that you think United are better than no, because physicality beats United players, like beats them physically. Like United players look unfit after 17 minutes most games. Like they are pants. You're wondering, like, what do you guys do in training? They get bullied off the ball easily. Forget about simple things like hold the ball for 3 seconds and look up and pass. Like
We gonna have to schedule another episode for United.
yes,
Let's try
we'll
this
have to. Yeah. So before I go, I wanted to note something. I know it was Father's Day last weekend, but
Yeah.
I didn't host. So this weekend actually marks something that's very important to this podcast. We've been doing this since 2017, a little bit longer actually. Been doing this for a while, and so we've been consistently a crew of 5 people, 4 guys and a lady, EJ, and then it's Ayo, Ola, Jola, and myself. And something special has happened in the past 6 months. Exactly 6 months this week. One of us became a dad, and then another one became a dad, and then another one became a dad. So 3 out of the 5 of us have now become
Yeah.
fathers in the past 6 months. It started exactly 6 months ago.
Yeah.
Myself, Ayo, and Ola. And
Yeah.
so that's why I put up the pattern of feet.
Yeah.
It's great to have that feeling.
Yeah.
I wanted to take note of that to congratulate my fellow hosts
Yeah.
and mark it on the show. We've been doing this for a while. These guys
Yeah.
feel like family, and it's good to know that our family is growing and
Yeah.
prospering. Um, it's also good to have guys like you, Itata. You've been here for a while, and welcome to the show, Brian. I know we'll be seeing you again. You really actually
Oh yeah, sure.
made a good impression on us.
Yeah,
You're
yeah, he's a
a
tough guy,
very, yeah, you're a really, really cool guy. So please, guys, we have to go. I know some of you have to run to a game. The game would have just kicked off a minute ago. But we'll be back here again next Sunday. We'll probably do 2 or 3 more weeks. Then we'll go on a break before the season starts. So until next Sunday, hit like, subscribe, and post your comments. Thank you all for coming and thank you for watching. Have a blessed week.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me, and congratulations to all the new fathers.
and
Thank
please watch Copa America 2 games today. So Copa America is also ongoing.
Yeah, we'll
Oh
watch
yeah,
it.
Yeah.
yeah, we'll do. We'll do. Nice one, guys.
All right.
All right.
All right, Brian. Take it easy, man.
All
Tough
right,
guy.
man. Nice to meet you guys.
Zaza.